Hello everybody, hope you had a happy new year and a good holiday. And now it's time for the winter season. At least for those of us who are above the equator. But you know, I just can't stand this season. Honestly, I'd rather die of a heat stroke than of freezing to death. But since this is the season I'm locked in, let's continue with a winter film review. And that movie is called 8 Below. Oh, and if you are a dog lover, you'll enjoy this too.
Looking back, almost everyone has had at least one kind of pet in their life. Hell, I've had a bunch. Fish, crustaceans, gastropods, cats, and dogs. Sorry, no rocks. They are the animals we communicate with the most. They are the ones we rely on when it comes to relieving stress. And they are the ones we seek when we are bored. I don't like to brag, but I think I was a pretty good example of that when my cat was around. See that chill pose? Of course, aside from the everyday in-house versions we normally associate them with, animals have been used for other kinds of services. Whether as for therapy use or adopting a caretaker role like a seeing eye dog, it is amazing as to how far we have come with having animals help us. Mainly, those have come in the form of dogs.
Yeah, I don't think any animal would be as willing or capable of doing so.
Which brings me probably to one of the most hardworking of all domesticated dogs, aside from the military dogs. The husky. Known for being ultra fluffy, the majority of the time having mesmerizing ice blue eyes and running a lot, the husky is one of those dogs that never seems to lose affection from its admirers. Own a golden retriever? Nah, they shed too much. Own a Saint Bernard? Nope, too bulky. Own a Great Dane? No, too slobbery. Own a husky? Oh, the bo. Mind you, this is what I hear more often than not from people around me. Obviously, different people prefer different types of breeds. But looking past their visual charm, what really should be appreciated about these fuzzy faces are their ability to work. And when I say work, I mean work by the load. These dogs work great together, probably better than many other types of canines. And it is that trait that when bunched up, these guys can haul shipments many times heavier than themselves combined. And in what location might these dogs be pulling such commodities? In the freaking snowbound terrain of the upper north, where it's practically winter all the time.
Yeah, way past where I am geographically, thank the snow gods.
Now when it comes to films focusing on such a popular dog, the attention seems the exact opposite. Or at least movies people remember them best by. Many viewers my age would probably recognize their first husky film being the mid-1990s animated movie Balto. Although Balto himself, the hero, is not a husky. Nevertheless, the film still has a strong fan base today, and also shot off 2 sequels a little while after its release. I never saw them, so I have no prepared opinion on them, but I have my doubts.
I was so scared. I got people bumps.
No, today's review is on a live-action husky movie from 2006. I'm not sure as to why, though, Walt Disney Pictures needed to make 2 husky films so close in their release, that being Cuba Gooding Jr.'s Snow Dogs in 2002. Was there a big craze for husky dog movies going on at the start of the 21st century? Perhaps it was due to Paul Walker's rising celebrity status after starring in The Fast and the Furious and the horribly titled 22 Fast and Furious. Sidestepping Walker, though, the other reason why we are focusing on this is because just how significant the husky dogs are in this special feature.
Yeah, I'm not even truly a dog kind of person, but yet I still feel this movie is important to talk about. Which should speak volumes about me since I prefer cats.
Overall plot and writing. The story here is about an Antarctic explorer, Jerry, played by Paul Walker, his love for his dogs, and mainly his dogs. One day, Jerry is introduced to another explorer by the name of Davis McLaren, played by Bruce Greenwood, a scientist who believes he will find a fragment of the planet Mercury embedded in the freezing ice. This is no problem, and Jerry is happy to assist the scientist in his travels with the help of his trusty dog team. Making up the team is Max the newbie, Maya, Jerry's favorite and the leader, Old Jack, obviously up for retirement. No, seriously, it's stated he's up for retirement.
He just turned 10 and he's actually getting ready for retirement.
Shadow and Buck, the brawn of the batch, Truman and Dewey, the knuckleheads, and Shorty, which unfortunately nothing is said about her. While on their travels, they are informed from headquarters that a massive storm is headed in their direction. Unfortunately for Jerry, he learns that there's only enough transport vehicles for the crew excluding his dogs. Fearing the worst and being forced to leave, Jerry does his best to prep for the long haul back to the States without his furry companions.
It feels, man. It feels.
The writing to this movie has a couple of sources. It is stated in the end credits that this is based on a true story, and it also is adapted from a prior Japanese film called Antarctica in 1983, which I never fully seen. That movie too focused on two explorers and the bond they developed over their dogs. This happens here as well, but like always, there are differences. Tailoring the script for this movie was David DiGilio in his first theatrical writing credit. As mentioned before, the characters that are spotlighted here remain almost unchanged. Some of the major differences come from the tone, violence, and specifically what other substance the movie provides. No doubt is the 1983 film a strong movie, I'm sure, in its own right, but there are things to appreciate in this version too. The main reason for these contrasts is that of Disney being the owner of it. As most of us know, the Mouse House can tug on those heartstrings, but they go about it with far less graphic display. The tone here does have the feels moments, and none of it went to a degree as to pummel its characters into submission.
That is, unless this is a super emotional drama, but then again, this is Disney, so I can't imagine it being all tears and no happy moments.
Violence and explicit content is dialed way down for obvious reasons, yet there are still a couple of times where things can get fairly intense. What can be found enjoyable about this rendition are the personalities given to the Huskies and how they treat each other. This group of Huskies really stick out and watch each other's backs. They also seek to teach each other important lessons. This is one storyline that occurs throughout the movie, and it's all done silently. The other plot thread is Jerry's bond with Dr. McLaren and finding a way to get back to the end of the earth to pick up his dogs. This sadly puts a lot of stress on his determination. Comforting Jerry in his mission is Katie, played by Moon Bloodgood, and Charlie, Jason Biggs, as his close friends. As supporting characters, do they grow? To some degree, yeah. More Katie than Charlie because Katie was closer to Jerry, but that's it. The real struggle is on Jerry and his dogs. And over time, he's developed more, as are his canine counterparts. Both of these arcs run parallel at different locations, which is effective. This is the highlight of DiGilio's script. Is it completely original? No, it's not, but the way it includes other components are noteworthy. One thing that definitely can be appreciated is learning some useful winter weather skills from Jerry.
Well, if you plan on going somewhere with this kind of terrain, or someplace like it, it's best you check out this video. It does have some life-saving skills in it.
This doesn't leave the movie without its issues, though. Here's a glaring one. At one point, Jerry gets frostbite on his fingerdoodles. And I mean to the point where they are dead, and medics have him put his hands in a bucket of warm water. I could have sworn the rule of thumb states that if the tissue is black, there is no recovery. Yet later we see Jerry all fine and dandy. Am I missing something? The other problem is the ability to follow the dogs. Most of the time it's easy to follow what dog the viewer is watching, but some of them do look similar to others. Surely there are other Huskies that are a bit more identifiable that could have been cast. Whatever, not a big gripe. For David DiGilio, he surprisingly hasn't done too much else. A year later he would create the show Traveler for one season, and that's kind of it. He has done a couple other projects more recently, but nothing super big. Which is odd because the film was a financial and critical success. Behind the scenes was producer Frank Marshall, but instead directing this time. On the producer end of things, Marshall has helped make over 100 films like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and all of the Bourne films. As for directing credits, he's only got a couple recognizable ones to his name, like Arachnophobia in 1990 and Alive in 1993, which oddly enough dealt with characters stuck in another frozen wasteland too.
Call it prior experience? I guess.
Actors and characters. As I said before, when it comes to Paul Walker, as an actor, what do we remember him for?
Yes, that is obvious. I'm asking which films are related to it. Yeah, those. That's all I was trying to get across. I don't need the feels going here, people.
Are there any other films that people think of? Maybe not immediately. However, I think this comes at a close second place in his list of films, where he is the main lead. Here, when Walker plays Jerry Shepherd, his acting shines through with how much affection he has for his dog team. And yes, that's his character's name. I see what you did there, movie. Even the husky dog meme would love that joke. And no, the emotion displayed isn't just when Jerry is looking to reunite with his pals after he left base. On screen, it's very apparent that Paul Walker really likes the actors and the dogs that he's with, and is really invested in the story. When it comes to being the leader, or dare I say, shepherd of the group.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Walker was an excellent choice on the casting department's end.
I hate to do this, but rise and shine, kids. No more sleeping in. Alright. If Rise and Shine won't work. Is anybody hungry this morning?
Even after losing a game and all, you get in the end this.
Dude, I almost had you.
How do you turn down such a chill sportsman-like answer? Bruce Greenwood as Dr. McLaren is another good actor among the cast. Greenwood has a nice transformation in his character portrayal. Initially, he's all about his rock he's gotta find. He doesn't care how long it takes. He's gotta find it before he heads back. This puts Jerry's feelings on a bit of the uneasy side of things. Jerry wants to help the doc out, but at the same time, rushing to get the job done doesn't always make the end result a good one. Part of the way through, there is some tension because Dr. McLaren doesn't see the error of his ways. However, through another series of trials, Dr. McLaren and Jerry do end up connecting in a way that allows them to understand one another. Unfortunately for the doc, sacrificing life over fame doesn't seem to be a moral he was ever taught. Greenwood has had his fair share of big films too. 13 Days in 2000, Rules of Engagement, I, Robot, and Star Trek are just some of the films he has appeared in.
Now, my job as your guide is to get you back home in one piece, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do.
Jerry, we're talking about a rock from another world. This ice flow might give us the first meteorite from the planet Mercury.
Now on to the Goyle of the group, Miss Moon Bloodgood. Although her participation isn't always engaged as a character, when she is, it is significant. In some ways, because her relationship is by far the closest to understanding Jerry, it is Katie who would be the best person to help comfort and steer Jerry in the right path. Occasionally there are times where Jerry might react more emotionally than logically, and it's Katie who will set him straight. That's not to say she's always this way. She does have a personality of her own, and she is a likable character. Moon Bloodgood is known for her roles in Terminator Salvation, Faster, and The Sessions. Her most recent appearance was in the TV show Falling Skies in 2015.
I've not seen him for long, but kind of like him. Such the opposite of us. Complete head guy. He's an engineer.
Like on a train?
Shut up.
Jason Biggs as Charlie is played for nothing more than comedic timing, and that's completely fine for his role. After all, he did star in the American Pie films. The ones he was actually in, not the rejects.
You know, I'm curious as to whether if Biggs had trouble filming these scenes or not, considering he's more skilled in the adult section of comedy and all. He must have really had to restrain himself.
Either way, though, Biggs plays Charlie straightforward, and the charm is present. He's a light goofball in this movie.
Oh, hey, dude. What happened? Strike out? No. I didn't even swing. Ah, went down looking. That's still a strikeout, Jerry.
For the rest of the human cast, there are actors August Schellenberg, Gerard Plunkett, and Wendy Crewson, but their inclusion in the overall story doesn't have massive effects. They are there, but they by far have the least screen time. Last but not least, when it comes to actors, are the husky dogs themselves. It's amazing how well these dogs are trained and can act the part. Listed in the credits, dog characters had 2 dog actors each. That already is impressive. But that name, though, Flapjack, all that reminds me of is...
Flapjack! Hey, Flapjack! Come with me, we'll go and see a place called Candy Island!
Back to dogs, though, the acting by these dogs are phenomenal. So much is expressed through these pooches without barely a word being said, aside from the occasional bark or whimper. The situations these dogs are put in, and how they deal with it, is a journey all in itself. The main characters of this specific group are Max and Maya. Everybody else is along for the ride. Max is the dog that's always learning, and it's not always the easy way. Maya, on the other hand, is the one teaching these lessons to Max. Together, these two round up the others and make the best of their whereabouts. As a collective whole, they are hard not to enjoy.
Well, if they don't win you over, I hope you find something else you enjoy in this movie, because I can't see why you wouldn't.
Action and cinematography. This is an adventure film, so for action, much of the sequences shown involve the dogs and how they react to various circumstances. Whether it be peril or hunting, the dogs are the ones who do 90% of the stunts, some of which is pretty clever in how it's done. These particular dogs will make other dog owners envy how well they know how to entertain. Working as the director of photography for this production was Don Burgess. Burgess's work includes well-known films like Castaway, Spider-Man, The Muppets, and The Conjuring 2, most recently. What's great about Burgess's cinematography is how frequently he captures the frozen terrain our characters are constantly subjected to, and how he focuses on the characters. The way the camera focuses on the individual's expressions gives the viewer some kind of window into what they're thinking. Even the dog's limited facial movements are understandable to some degree with the help of how the scenes are filmed. For exterior scenes, the snow dunes displayed through large panning shots are absolutely breathtaking. Scenery that beautiful should not be forgotten to admire.
However, I am still not a winter person. Just because that background shot is enticing does not mean I want it to snow. Better go check outside.
Soundtrack and film score. Hired to create the film score to this movie is a unique composer by the name of Mark Isham. Mark Isham is not your regular composer. What I mean by this is that he doesn't seem to have a preferred film genre. His work has covered many, and their results have varied. This is both a positive and a negative, because he's not pigeonholing himself into one kind of music. However, he's also not really defining any certain area he can truly be good at. Perhaps he's still searching, but again, having produced more than 100 scores, I don't think that's the logical case. The music that Isham does prefer, though, is jazz, soundscape music, and synths. For parts of his work, it's audible to some degree, but again, not everywhere. If you were to look at other movies he's worked on, like Point Break or The Mist, it's not so clear. Isham tends to make better scores that are more family-oriented, although I have to admit I enjoyed his jazz cues in the movie Time Cop and the dark atmospheric beats of Blade. In general, though, Isham's family-friendly compositions tend to have more music to listen to and are more developed. When listening to the music of Miracle, Dolphin Tale, 42, or this movie, there's bound to be a better listening experience. Unlike some of his other productions, Isham includes a reoccurring main theme with this movie, even though it hasn't turned out to be a franchise. The music is made up of standard orchestra with strings and horns playing the motif. The main theme is adventurous and optimistic sounding. As a cue by itself, it represents Jerry and the dogs. He does not have to separate the themes for each. However, since there are different scenes that involve adventure or development, the tunes do change. The action cues do blend really well with the scene and involve more drums than other tracks. For developmental scenes, sometimes the main theme does show up and is used with delicate piano keys. Those scenes in particular can be more emotional to watch. Nevertheless, it does work.
Being that this is also one of his scores that doesn't feel so soundscape-ish in texture, I highly recommend purchasing this, and it's easily found on iTunes.
For Isham, this is probably one of his more underappreciated scores because of how effective it is in pulling in the viewer on these characters. Here are some samples. Overall impression. Was it a flub or a job well done? Okay, so looking past the confusion of trying to remember which dog is which and one health concern, dealing with frostbite, I can't see why anyone else wouldn't keel over to have this movie. The actors have likable roles and have the proper development according to their significance. The The cinematography is gorgeous, as much as I personally can't stand Winter Wonderlands. The music by Mark Isham is memorable and easy listening, and by golly, are those dogs amazing to watch act out their parts. It is truly they who steal the show.
And no, I don't mean that steal either. But for all I know, a live-action Balto is on its way too.
Coop, say goodnight to Buck.
I'm gonna take a rain check, Chair.
All right, kids, come on, let's go. Everyone outside, let's get you tucked into bed. Come on.